that was signed by the governor a few weeks ago and is now the driving force behind our need to go ahead and plan for what the North Berkeley Bart Station future will look like. There are comment cards everywhere, and if you put the, if you want, your comment pertains to any one station. Every station has a number. Please put it on your card if you wish to, but the box is right here for your comment cards. There are pencils all over. The next steps is that everything would be combined from this visioning session and given to the City Council for the next steps for decision making on where to go with all of this and what is the next logical step. And with that, I'd like to thank you for coming and introduce Mayor Jesse Arreguin.
Well, I just want to thank everyone who submitted comments, everyone who submitted design alternatives. I just want to reiterate, there is no project, there is no specific plan developed yet. The purpose of this afternoon is to not only review some of the ideas that members of the community put forward, but also to get new ideas. We want to ensure it going forward, particularly in light of the adoption of AB 2923, that the community and the city, working in collaboration with BART, is helping define the vision and the future of this particular location and housing is developed. So it's important that you're here, it's important that you weigh in, because we want to make sure that the community's input and the community's wishes and the community's vision for this location is what ultimately will shape what happens in the future. So thank you, Councilmember Maio, for conceptualizing this opportunity today. And I think we have a question from a gentleman. Yes?
You said the city is working with BART and conceptualizing this. How exactly are you doing that given that the state law gives BART to a terrible make of full control of the process? What is the integration? What are you doing in that regard? The city's done so little now. How is that going to work?
So under Assembly Bill 2923, the city has until I think 2020 to work on developing zoning regulations, and BART will be adopting, as reviewing, and maybe adopting transit-oriented development guidelines that will guide their development. So it's a couple things to consider. One, there is no zoning for this location. So the city of Berkeley will have to adopt zoning. That will be done through our planning commission and through a community process. So that's where the city has power and the city has a role. I want to thank BART and thank Director Saltzman, because BART's not coming in and saying, we're going to do this, or we don't care what the city thinks. They want to hear the input of the community. They want to hear the input of the city. They want to ensure that whatever project through an RFP process happens reflects the parameters, the height, the massing, the number of affordable units, parking, that reflects the input of the community as put forward by the Berkeley City Council. So this will be a collaborative process between the city and BART. Ultimately, it's BART's plan, and so BART will have to do an RFP to invite developers to submit proposals to develop housing on this location. But we get to set the zoning, and we get to set the zoning working in collaboration with BART. So AB 2923 did, much to my disagreement, and Councilor Maio and a majority of the Berkeley City Council, we were against 2923. It did take away directly the power of the city of Berkeley to govern what happens there. But given that this particular parcel is BART property, it's not city property, we always had to work with BART. It was never going to be the city decides, we had to work in partnership with BART. So long story is, there is no proposal yet, there is no RFP yet, we're at the beginning of this process. We will set the zoning. That's why we're here today, to hear your input, so we can begin to work with the community to set the parameters of what we built here. Thank you.
Is there any community group or committee working with you?
Much more process.
There's a lot more process that will be coming in the coming year. And Councilor Maio, unfortunately, is retiring from the council, but I'm sure will be involved as a member of the community. And this is an idea session. The goal is to gather input. No decisions are being made today. There is no project right now. We're trying to gather input so we can take all the great ideas that the community's put forward and chart a path for a community process to shape development at the site. So thank you. And once again, there are comment cards. We encourage you to submit your comments. Please provide your input on these designs. And we will be in touch with you on next steps. Thank you.
Are there more questions?
Yes?
Is it too late to zone it R1?
Like I said, there is no zoning for the site. No decision's been made on the zoning. We're here to get ideas. There's going to be a community process on what the development standards are going to be for the site. Sir?
I was one of the people who submitted comments 8 days ago. I noticed mine's not there. I doubt that I'm unique, so I'm thinking others aren't there also. How is
So,
disassembled?
So those were disassembled by the mayor's office staff who got all of the input, but I also have comments that are up on the wall that she sent me a spreadsheet of those. And if we missed some, I'm really sorry about that. I think she tried to capture everything, but they're either up on the wall or in there, and if they're not, please, well, I'll go back and look again because we're putting everything up on the web that we got. So if yours are not here, maybe you would be patient enough to send in another copy to
I'd
me?
be happy to do that. What I
Great.
don't want to do is try to write it out from memory. On the
No,
spot.
you don't have to do that, but if you send it to me, I will be certainly sure of getting everything in. We want everything in.
Thank you.
So just one more point I want to make is that this is not going to be the last opportunity for people to provide input. And, you know, we got a lot of responses. We got some specific proposals. We really appreciate the interest and the response of the community. And this is going to be an ongoing process.
Yeah,
Yes.
Can you explain how these drafts came about, whether they were solicited by the city, paid for by the
No,
city?
no. So what we did was we put a public call out for people who wanted to present or send ideas in. No one was excluded. We accepted everything that came in, even and one proposal that came in after the deadline. No one's been paid. The comments that we got that were only written should be in those books on the table there or here. No one's been paid. It's all open-ended. Yes?
Who's doing the engineering assessment? I think a lot of people in the neighborhood are concerned about the stability of the structure in an area where BART runs underneath and we're near quake, and I think there are a lot of engineering concerns.
You mean the engineering issues? I'm sure those will be handled. You know, some things that have happened with the San Francisco buildings give you a little bit of a question about that, but I'm sure that there'll be a very deep scrutiny around the engineering. There has to be. I mean, it's required. Yes?
Is there anything at all that you can say about the timeline of all this?
We have to be through it in about 2 years. So this is what we have before us. That's why we're here today.
So when you say we have to be through
Through our decision on
the
zoning.
decision is 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what about the timeline for the construction and?
If there's a proposal, what we have envisioned is that we would work toward that with BART because it has fit our concept and enter into a memorandum of understanding about how to go forward. We want to be a very big part of making these decisions. That's why we jump-started this process now and really are going to be in the driver's seat as much as we possibly can, given AB 2923. Yes?
What is the maximum height, including any bonus?
So because we haven't zoned and we don't know how much, you know, what the...
Under 2923.
No, they just want to look at the existing zoning, and this key element was added the last minute. The key amendment from the original legislation limits the height of the BART developments in general, not just in Berkeley, to 1 story or 15 feet above the current maximum height limits within a half mile. So our current maximum height limits are up to us.
Really? I mean, what are they on University?
So the area surrounding this site is zoned residential. And so that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind in how we set zoning regulations to make sure that they are contextual to the surrounding uses in the surrounding area. There is no zoning currently for the site, so we are starting with a blank slate. And that's why the purpose, and I'm just answering your question as best I can. That's why we are here today, to get input. So as the process goes forward through the Planning Commission to develop zoning for the site, we are getting as much input as possible to inform that conversation. And so So we should probably wrap up questions so we can all review the proposals and give our comments, and we'll take 2 more questions. Yes?
Sorry, there's one thing I wasn't actually clear from the text of 2923. Even though the BART area is not zoned, it says a half mile, and does that mean existing structures? So that in fact, if the zoning is less than a story above an existing structure within a half mile, then BART could say, sorry, it's too low. So I was just curious because there's a lot of single family housing, but if you go within a half mile, there's stuff on University, and the question is, does that actually set the maximum, not sort of what's around it, but anything, the highest building within a half mile essentially is the minimum above which there can go 1 additional story. I just wasn't
And
sure
if
about
it's
that.
over existing zoning, that seems to be.
So I think there's a couple things to keep in mind about 2923, that it requires that the BART Board of Directors review and adopt through a public process transit-oriented development policies that will serve as the sort of development parameters for building on their properties adjacent to their stations. And it requires that local governments revise their zoning to conform to those guidelines. We've already been in conversation with Director Saltzman around the fact that under the current TOD guidelines, there's the urban station and then there's the suburban station. And we want to make sure that whatever development parameters would apply to this location are contextual and fit into the area that they fit into. That's why I think we're here today, to get input. So as we engage with BART in the discussion on their TOD guidelines and on what implementing zoning we will put in place around the site, that we are listening to the community. And there's a lot of interest in this issue. We want to make sure that we're making decisions in a way that engages the community process. Sir, this will be the last question.
Okay, you know,
We're happy to engage in questions with you.
I haven't been here for the whole thing, but I don't know if anyone has brought up the fact that the parking that is there right now is already flowing out into our neighborhood. If they take all that parking away, our neighborhood is going to be terribly impacted by that. Is it, any thoughts about that going into this?
So we already have permit parking near to the BART station.
I know that.
I happen to live on a block that has permit parking, and that was actually initiated because the university had so much impact on the neighbors. So right now, we have actually as a council passed the fact that permit parking can be extended wherever it's needed. So we may wind up having to do that to protect the neighbors from the impact of that.
But yeah, I'm also thinking about all those people who now use that station to park at. Where are they going to go?
So maybe we can ask our director from BART to come and maybe address the whole parking issue, because we did receive a lot of comments about the need for parking there. And I know that BART has dealt with this at other stations. And so Rebecca Saltzman.
Thank you. Yeah, we haven't made any decisions on parking, just as we haven't made any decisions on what the development will look like. What we've done at other stations throughout our system, at some stations we've replaced all the parking, at some stations we've replaced some of the parking, and for the first time at Lake Mare we're looking at replacing none of the parking, but it's been different based on the context of the neighborhood, so we'll have a community process over parking just like we will over development.
Thank you. We're here to answer your questions if you have them. We encourage you to take a look at these displays and to provide any written comments that you would like. Thank you.